Hi, my name is Ben and welcome to Field and Foley episode 34. Our guest is Aaron Brown, a seasoned audio professional specializing in game audio, music composition, and field recording. Aaron has worked with industry giants like Electronic Arts, Lucasarts, and Naughty Dog, contributing to award-winning games such as Call of Duty Vanguard and Uncharted 3. Currently based in Austin, Texas, Aaron is an active supporter of the local game audio community and continues to explore new opportunities in the field. But we also have joining Mac Owens, a talented sound designer with a diverse audio background. Mac graduated from Full Sail University with a degree in recording arts and has worked on various projects including game sound and educational audio. Since moving to Austin in 2022, Mac has worked with Arkane Studios on the game Redfall, focusing on sound design, Foley, implementation, and mixing. He also founded Cleanwaves for his linear sound work. And recently, Aaron and Mac documented a detailed session capturing gun sounds, offering valuable insights into preparation, recording techniques, and DAW session management in Reaper, aimed at helping other field recorders succeed. So, hi Aaron, hi Mac, thank you for coming on the show.
Hey Ben, thanks for having us. Great intro.
Yeah, thank you. Fantastic.
I hope I got everything right.
Absolutely.
So my first question, of course, would be, what prompted you to do the gun recording session?
So that actually, the idea came about. I was with another sound design buddy of mine, Ryan Stunkel, who runs Blip Sounds, and a sound designer that he works with, Dietrich. And we were fortunate enough to go out to a family friend's of Ryan's property and shoot guns and record it. And that's kind of where the initial thought entered my mind, as we were out maybe somewhere Comanche, Texas. So, I mean, it's maybe like 2 hours outside of Austin. And we were out there shooting on this gentleman's property with a bunch of really cool weapons and a lot of microphones that we brought. And I was just sitting there thinking about how lucky we were to do it. And I was wondering if there was an easy way to recreate it so that maybe other people in the community could do it too. Because it was really valuable that we were getting to learn how to do this without being on, a big budget production or something like that, where time is money. We kind of got to, I don't want to use the term mess around because, there are firearms involved, but kind of mess around and see and learn and do different things. And after I came back, I just kind of got to work and I started reaching out to a bunch of local ranges and firearm instructors in the area. And we landed on a gentleman named Carl Wren, who's about a 45-minute hour drive outside of Austin. Licensed firearm instructor, really cool guy who was willing to have us come out there and set up shop and record some cool gun sounds with him as our active, as our shooter. And so that's kind of where it stemmed from.
That's very cool. And how did you two first meet and decided to collaborate on this?
We met through the Austin Game Audio meetups and Ryan Stunkel.
And then you just thought like, oh, gun sounds cool. I'm going to be a part of this, or?
Sort of, yeah. Once Mac had it going, he kind of reached out because I don't know what, because I've got the microphones.
If it was just the microphones, I mean, I would have been good with Ryan. I just, because Ryan had a ton of microphones. No, I wanted to bring out a group of people who I knew would, for like a trial run of something, we would get the absolute most out of it. And I think I think we curated a pretty solid group of people. I mean, just Aaron's documentation alone made the whole thing worth the trip by itself. That's, I mean, I wanted to not keep it like, not a secret, but I didn't want to, I didn't want to, count the eggs before they hatch, or however that saying goes. Count the chickens before they hatch. 'Cause I wasn't sure if we would have something that we could recreate. I wanted to make sure that it was cool. So I, figured just reach out to people who I knew would really be down to come do this with us. So, yeah.
And Aaron, I checked out the video and it's so like detailed. You have everything set up. You have the preparation. You have the actual shoot. You have like things that went wrong or that didn't get wrong because you decided to be prepared in before. And one of the questions that came to my mind was, did you already plan to make this kind of detailed documentation about it, or was it something like, oh, this worked, I have all my notes and now I'm trying to like make it into this whole video, which is really like, as I said, like really detailed. We're gonna link it, of course, in the show notes so people can watch it.
Oh yeah, pre-planning is kind of always a thing I do these days. And especially with this many microphones and this many people involved, just getting it all together, having a plan of where the microphones go, what sounds we need, who's going to run what, a checklist of everything you need to bring, felt critical to build.
Yeah, and so from that on, you had all the material to do the video from.
Yeah, exactly. So that was all a part of pre-planning. And don't let Mac gloss over how hard it was to find this range either. Like, he spent a good 2 months calling around a lot of people. So I don't want people listening to think, oh, I'll just call the range and it's good to go.
There were a lot of people who really, really liked the idea, would love to help it, but they couldn't do it. So yeah, it did, took some time.
Can you go in a bit more detail? You mean like couldn't help as either like the range wasn't like clean enough noise-wise, or what was the problem there?
A lot of different reasons. Noise being an issue, hosting people, groups of that size being an issue. Maybe even just simply having people come with microphones to record stuff. Firearms are they're a topic, and I could imagine that if you're an individual who your livelihood is based off of, letting people come shoot firearms on your property or whatever. Like, I'm not asking questions. If you're not comfortable with it, fine. That could just be speculation on my part. But I didn't talk to anybody who didn't think the idea wasn't an interesting one. But it did take a lot of effort. And I found Carl through another gentleman who, again, was like, very interested, not quite sure how he could help, and I kind of got Carl's name through that. So yeah, it was, it took some back and forth. I emailed Carl, and it was a long email, and then I erased it, and I was like, hey, I have an idea, call me. And he was like, when he called me, he was like, hey, I wrote out a long email, and then I erased it, and I called you. And I was like, yeah, kind of, because we had our preliminary phone call was like an hour-long conversation, just talking about logistics. And I could kind of tell he was the dude because he also has a master's degree in acoustics. So like he had, he has some, it's kind of like a perfect match there. Also, he's a local Austin, he's a musician, so he knows, he's like comfortable around microphones. Like he's kind of
perfect.
Yeah. So when I told him, hey, we're audio guys, he was like, cool. So yeah,
perfect fit.
Yeah, so you essentially found the golden spot here, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I love Carl. Carl's awesome. He's the guy. I'm glad we found him.
Awesome, shout out.
Yeah,
and maybe we go a bit about as I said, like all the preparation. I don't want to go necessarily too much into that because the video is doing a great job of it. But maybe what I always like is what were some of the biggest challenges you faced during the day. I remember one of the metal pings, which is like a classic. Something wind picks up and something makes a metally sound, which is always fun to locate. So
yeah.
Anything else that came up?
There were a few things that came up. There were a lot of metal pings. We had at least 4 during the day. So first thing when we got there, we did a roundup and found the troublesome spots just by walking around, clapping and listening, and so we had gaff tape, we had painter's tape, and Carl was cool enough to just let us wander and take care of those things. But we also brought acoustic blankets for bad reflections, and that was planned for by clapping as loud as possible and just walking around and listening to certain things that were reflecting that we didn't want. So we had a shed and we had a metal thing that we had to tape up an acoustic blanket to. So bringing acoustic blankets is more for not just for the shooter to sit on, but also for problematic spots.
Makes sense. So yeah, and so you essentially, how much time did you spend like running around doing that kind of stuff and preparing on the actual range?
Actual range, I'd say that clapping and spotting things out was about 20 minutes, and then probably 40 to 60 more minutes of just running cables, getting the mics. And that pre-planning really helped because everybody knew the approximate location of everything. So once we planned where the shooter was going to be, everything was relative to that shooter location. So it was pretty smooth, all things considered.
It saved a lot of time.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it. Yeah, that's very quick. That's very quick for like so many microphones on there. I mean, it looked on the plan on YouTube. It looked like a massive amount of microphones. Like carrying that all around is already a feast. And then cabling that all up. That's yeah, and all the channels.
It's definitely more than it seems. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than it seems. Like if you look, the more you look and the more you look at, or the more you think then about, okay, I have all those things, then I need a lot of preamps, then I need all those tracks, and I need them all synced, and I need to be aware of, the work that is after the recording, because that's always, of course, the longest thing. Like you go out, record an hour, and then you edit 3 hours or something. So, that's probably gonna give you a lot of material for a long time. So that's also something that I'd like to ask, because you went over the whole session and like all the sort of preparation afterwards. But do you think like now that you've done it, that you're so prepared that next time it's all going to be even quicker? Or do you think like, okay, that's going to be about the same amount of work? It's always going to be all that editing. I mean, you mentioned, of course, for the Reaper scripts that saved you a lot of time. Do you think there's even more potential to make it even more streamlined?
Absolutely. Especially because certain mic positions, we didn't really care for. So there's certain things we would never do again. For instance, the DPA 4061 out in front that was boundary mics in front of the shooter. They had the biggest blown out low end, not in a good way. Like totally blown out, which surprised me because the 4061 is, high SPL, should be fine. So we had to move those. And generally the load in, load out with more defined roles where people understand the quirks of the gear and the exact positions and directionality of everything. I think we could have shaved off, 30 minutes here and there, just being more efficient with little less stress during the day, because it's already stressful enough. There's a lot going on. You don't want to mess up this session with all these microphones. It's not like a one take is everything, but there's a lot on the line. So getting it right is critical. I would say I don't think we can really shrink down the time for mistakes though, because that's just leave that buffer. Like things came up
always.
In the middle of the take, a new metal ping occurred. We had to go find it, which is awkward because we all have the headsets on and we're kind of like, how do we communicate there's a problem?
Yeah. So what was the additional metal ping, just out of curiosity?
That one was a gate far away. Just random new latch once the wind picked up. The wind carried
hanging
it.
Off of it, yeah.
Yeah. So only when the wind was at a certain knots, I guess we didn't account for it. But how could you?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just like walk for miles around it and try to find stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's fun. I mean, it's so fun. I have to laugh because it's the same thing that happens to me so often that I'm out. I find something great to record. I start recording, and after about 20 minutes, I start to notice like, where's that sound coming from? How long has it been there? And then it's this. How much of my recording is already fucked? And now I have to find this thing. And can I also like do something, because you don't want to just walk up on a property and like tape something to don't make a sound anymore. You have to like really be careful about that, of course. So yeah, those kinds of metal pings is always a fun time.
They always happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe anything else you'd like to share? Maybe like after the initial first test, what did you adjust? And like, was it all like normal things? Like, okay, we have to adjust some gain levels, some microphones are not in a great position, or did you have something like very that you didn't account for before?
Yeah, the main thing was the gain. Mostly it was gain staging. So we did a little 24-bit and a little 32-bit because it's rare you get the opportunity to do both and have the time where there isn't a gigantic budget on the line. So a little experimentation was nice. So the first part of the session was 24-bit, then we jumped to 32-bit. And in setting levels in 24-bit, and I later calculated in the video, but the crest factor of weapons, which is basically the peak signal to the average signal, is like 30 decibels of difference. So that very initial sharp peak is kind of a worthless peak, and it's very short but it'll blow out your recorder for just this short little couple of samples. So if you set your levels where that doesn't peak, you're going to have a real bad signal in 24-bit. So for the 24-bit, we had things pretty high up. I think 24 dB, around 24 to 30 dB, depending on the microphone, right? But setting it so you see some red, and red's okay with guns for me. Like, get that initial thing, either get the limiter on or just let that very short thing clip. Because the meat of the signal, that 20, 30 dB down, that's where you really, really want to get that healthy. So we'd record the first one, get some levels, listen back in between, and then just get that as a cycle. Each new weapon, do a few shots or a full mag, listen back, make adjustments. But once we did that with 2 guns and they were about the same levels, we just let it go. But that was only for 24-bit. For 32-bit, it didn't really matter. It's what's so great about the MixPre 2 series is they really got 32-bit right. You know, there's no noise injections, there's no weird tearing, no issues. So the only thing you're setting that gain for is playback listening, because later in post, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, that's always fun. I also got a 32-bit recorder a while back now, and it definitely changed my approach to things, and made me a lot easier in just keep it calm when something's red. Maybe Mac, also to you the question, like on the spot while you were recording and when you were adjusting, how did you then divide between us who does what? Did you have each a separate line of microphones and recorders to manage, or did you all do the same stuff? Or
everybody kind of fell into their own role. So Aaron brought his his equipment. We had a couple of other guys there who had brought their own equipment too, and everybody was kind of manning their own recorders. And I was kind of helping communicate. Okay, shooter ready, this and that. We were slating takes, and I think everybody just kind of fell into their own roles. Is something, I mean, going forward, if we do it again, for certain people, I imagine it would be a little bit more defined. But it's another reason, one of the reasons why I kind of wasn't, instrumental to do it first run with a bunch of people and just kind of see, is there any fat that can be trimmed? Is it, make more sense to have somebody doing this or that? Can we split something up into multiple roles? Because Aaron is right. It's you do want to get all this stuff correct, and then it falls on us doing it to make sure it's good. But then in the future, if we do this and more people come, the idea being hey, we want to give you the opportunity to do this in a low stress environment. It's we do have to take on some of that stress, so we got to try to figure out where things can quicken up or this or that. But I think for the most part, it was all kind of maybe a little bit discussion beforehand, and then we all fell into it naturally. So
it's always nice when that happens.
Yeah, it was pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah, it's really good. And so you're planning to do that again? Any plans on what to change, like other guns, or of course, as you mentioned in the video, one of the microphones is for sure not going to come on the trip next time, or the specific position of it. Do you have already plans what to do with this next?
So I mean, for my part, I think there's still some more kind of conceptual planning that has to be done, because we could take it in a bunch of different directions, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but the idea of having somebody come who spends a lot of time with recording guns could maybe come join us and show us how they handle their setup, or we could do something where we get a little bit more experimental and maybe mess around with some stuff that most people wouldn't want to waste time doing on a big budget production. Focus on a lot of guns, or maybe just a couple of guns and get really, really, really detailed on a couple. So there's still some stuff to be decided. There's still some conversations to have with Carl. He does have a lot of his own firearms. He provided the ammunition, but he also knows people with other firearms that, could be a little bit more, exotic or, rare. So there's still some experimentation to be done, which I'm pretty excited about. We could get, again, we're talking about firearms. I don't like to use it. We can get crazy, but we can get things get interesting. Like we could really find some stuff out, which I'm excited about. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something, to be honest, that came to my mind also. Like for me, I'm in Germany, so that means guns are not really a thing here and shooting ranges. Like they are, but it's a small thing, and it's not.
Pop on over to Austin, Texas, my friend.
Yeah, I'll be happy. Like if I'm over, I'll be happy to give you a visit. That would be awesome. Yeah. But what's always interesting to me when I see it in like the big budget video games or something, when they get these very specific guns, maybe even old guns that have like these kind of mechanical noises, and all that kind of Foley is something that's really cool to me. Of course, all mechanical Foley is always fun. Mm-hmm. And so these kinds of things are always interesting to me. And also when they try to find, if they only want the shots, then they have to find a way of getting the casings that fly around and stuff like that. So it's always like a challenge with these different, like you said, exotic guns. And that's probably something that's really interesting to do, and try to find out what to do with those.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn. That's the big thing, is that there's so much to learn. This was technically only my second firearm recording, and again, I've never been on like a professional scale one. You know what I mean? So there's so much to learn.
So much to learn. Yeah, and on that note, just a shout out to all the people that have done weapon shoots before and shared them on their blogs, and their different approaches. Frank Bry, Watson Wu, Chuck Russum, all these people that have put out their different blogs and shared what works. It saved us a bunch of time just having that general blueprint template. So, and in the video, you can see the Thunderbird sound version. It's actually very similar to what we landed on. So I think between those two overhead views, you could probably pick 3 or 4 positions. Say you don't have as many as many microphones as we have. You could probably get a good gun recording with just, say, 4. A good distant one. The side on the right side, about 15 feet away. That tended to be our favorite, like overall. Something close, like a 40-62, to get that mech, like maybe on a lapel or on the gun itself. Something behind, probably straight behind and mid-side, and as many distant mics as you can. I wish we had brought more distant mics.
Yeah, it would have been fun.
For next time, more very, very far, very sensitive Uzi style, just 300 feet, 400 feet. Let's give it a go.
Yeah, those kinds of tales are always awesome. And but I mean, if you're covering a bigger area, then you'll always have the problem with the planes, of course.
Yeah, we did have to.
Is that also something?
Yeah, we did have to. I think we stopped for 2 planes. I think we weren't interrupted as much as we thought we were going to be with that, because we took a gander at flight paths beforehand during like a bunch of us jumped on a Discord call and we looked at some of that stuff. So we noticed some plane traffic, or air traffic rather, but nothing crazy. It didn't there was no, helicopters circling overhead or like crop dusters, just like, oh, today's the day, and just going back and forth and doing, just, I don't know what they call them, bombing runs with crop dusters. I don't know, just back and forth. Nothing like that.
So we just raise our hands and it'd be like, plane, wait for it. And then we had one later that was cow, wait for it.
We did have the cow one, yeah. I was they did move in, like the cows, they're just kind of like roaming the firing range is separate from where the cows are. We're not like sure
they're safe. They're safe,
but they're close. You know what I mean? So at one point they did kind of come near, and they weren't as vocal, which was nice. But we did get like 1 or 2 moves. I was afraid at one point it would be like a call and response, in which case I don't even know what you do. You know what I mean? You just
yeah.
Carl, can you move the cows, please? I don't know.
Petition Boom to make a decal along with the bird.
Decal.
There's a whole line of farm animals.
Goose.
They'll be raking it in. They don't even know.
Pig. Yeah. They call the line the barnyard. whatever. Something else that would be interesting in the event of doing this in the future is, let's say you want to come and just bring your own microphones just to kind of mess around and see what you can get with them. We might be doing like a larger group session where we kind of do something where Aaron at the end of it is going to curate this beautifully perfect Reaper session of all the recordings that we do collectively as a group. But if you got like a small recorder and some microphones and you want to come see how you would handle a gun recording with a budget setup, or goofy microphones that you would never think, what I mean, like why not, just come check it out, so there's a lot to experiment with. I think I'm probably like 4 or 5 times saying that experimental thing, but
I mean that's the thing, like having the option of experimenting with that kind of stuff is very, very, very helpful. And that's how the nicest sounds have been made, right? It was some happy accident or an experimentation that yielded something cool.
Yeah.
So, maybe also something... Was there anything which you didn't expect that turned out way better than you thought? Or anything where you're like, oh, I expected like 50% of those to not work out, the recordings, and everything was pristine or something. Any success stories, I'm always happy to hear that.
I don't think there were too many surprises, except how cool some of his reloads sounded with the echo. Like, I mean, particularly that Remington. Like, the minute he cocked it, I was like, oh yeah. I don't know which mic it was, but it was just, it was perfect.
Like good reloads. Very cool. Yeah, okay. Let's move on to something else maybe, because you're not doing just the gun recording stuff, right? You're also working in sound in different projects. And the first thing I'd really like to know from you, Mac, is you worked on Redfall, and something I found was that you were you are placing ambient emitters and mixing them. And I'd like to know, like, your experience with that. Like, how did you decide where to place stuff in game? What kind of approach did you take to this? Because I'm guessing it's always going to be like some kind of balance between how much can I fit in there and how much space do I have for my audio stuff.
Sure. So I contracted with Aaron. Aaron hired me to help them out for about 3 months, and it was my first AAA gig. So I started out just placing emitters on. I think I started on the second map. So my method, really, no secrets. I just looked at the first one and I was like, what'd they do here? And then just carpet bombed ambient emitters all over the damn place as much as possible. I mean, like, they had sounds for everything, so I was putting ambient emitters everywhere. That's as simple as, I figured it would, a better approach would be heavy-handed and be like, hey, pull some of those out rather than, do more. Again, it also, in retrospect too, it's like, that being my first AAA gig, I was probably a little bit more like, tepid with my approach to like making sure that I didn't screw anything up or break anything. But again, it's placing ambient emitters initially. So, not much I could really mess up there during the first couple of weeks of work on the project.
Yeah, it was very consistent with the rest of the world, right? So everything flowed together and no area felt dead or too busy. Things were fairly consistently alive.
Yeah, that's what you want to have. And I just want to say, like, of course, Redfall wasn't as successful as it could have been, but to say the least. But I really enjoyed like the soundscape of it. I really liked the whole sound work on it. So kudos to you, of course, for your work.
Hey, thanks so
much.
Wonderful team.
I'm less biased as a contractor, so I will say that the core team crushed the sound of that game. It sounds incredible. So yeah.
Redfall live patch out now on Games Pass. For real though, if you haven't played it, go take a listen, because there's a new patch out and a new mix, and really happy with how it all turned out. Wonderful team: Emily Mayo, Matt Cheney, Mac Owens, a handful of other people.
Emily's awesome as well. Yeah, I had her on the podcast way in the beginning, and it was a very cool conversation. And It was before Redfall came out, so she was very excited, and I already like was looking forward to hear how it sounds, and like I wasn't disappointed. It was very good.
Thanks so much.
Of course, of course. And yeah, Aaron, going to you, like you've worked with big names like Naughty Dog, for example, which is for me like one of the greats. So can you maybe share like a particular memorable project you have that really like stayed in your mind, or is it all just cool?
I mean,
of course, all is cool.
I mean, yeah, what we do is so cool. I mean, we make sounds and implement sounds for video games. I mean, what a career. Sometimes you just have to take a step back and look at what you're doing. And you're like, yep, getting paid for this. Pretty sweet. Gosh, memorable projects. You know, composing for Super Lucky's Tale, the joy of it, the simple joy of it is something to capture. Just knowing, you know, working on the track until you get that groove and that smile where you're like, yep, that's pleasant, playful, happy, positive music. That was a lot of fun. And then leading the charge on Redfall and just finding the processes to get everybody to really get the best out of the team in a tight time frame with a lot of assets and successfully achieve it. Felt really good.
It's always fun when it comes together and it's like the plan worked.
Yes.
It's a great feeling.
When the Excel sheet is green and and it's actually green and you move along. Yeah. I love that feeling.
Yeah, and going to great feelings, I'm gonna ask you the question that I ask all of my guests, and we'll start with you, Aaron, because we're just on you. What is the first sound you've ever recorded, and why did you record it?
Ever field recorded or ever recorded?
The question is a bit like ambivalent because it's just meant to spark your imagination and see what you can come up with. Sometimes it's people saying like, oh yeah, when I was 8, I was recording stuff with my brother making fake radio shows. Sometimes people is, oh, when I got my first field recorder. So whatever pops into your mind, it's going to be interesting probably.
I'll go field recording. It's actually not too interesting. It's just a bird that was outside the window and I had all my studio gear and I had never had a portable recorder. You know, I'd never delved into any of this. This is pre-internet. So I just heard this bird and the way it was echoing, and I set up my mic outside my window through an XLR cable. and it's just this spark in my brain was like, wait, oh, hold on. I can do this. And that's like the beginning of the journey for me of like enjoying being present and listening to nature and the joy of recording. And here we are with far too many recordings on a drive this many years later, recording literally everything that makes an interesting sound.
Yeah. I mean, that's not uninteresting. That's a pretty nice thing. It's like, oh, this bird was just there randomly.
Beautiful bird.
This sparked your interest. I mean, yeah.
Cool echo. Not a lot of noise. Beautiful echo. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful bird.
Like, for first recording, most of first recordings are like, oh, this is awesome, I'm gonna record this. Then you listen back and it's like, okay, that doesn't sound great.
Oh,
like, yeah. Why doesn't it sound like in the movies? I have no idea. I just wanted to record this bird and not the whole city. Yeah.
Oh, only have a few hundreds of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, Mac, what was your first sound ever recorded and why?
I don't know if this, I mean, I could start like pretty far back. I don't know if this counts. I got another one after, just in case this is a BS one. But when I was like young, late 90s, I used to take blank cassette tapes and like record on the radio like mixes of songs that I liked and then like give them to people. So that's, you know, I recorded some stuff like that. But field recording, I don't think I didn't really know too much about field recording until I went to school at Full Sail, and I had a class that was just, here's a bunch of like expensive microphones, go out and record shit around campus. And I think like the first thing I recorded was like a door or something, but just having the headphones and the shotgun mic and like, you know, doing that felt really cool. And I was like, this is something. And then kind of learning how to, you know, do RX. After that, the first thing that I remember like setting up for, I've personally never had a ton of like field recording gear, but I got the, you know, at one point I had like the Zoom H6 with the shotgun mic, and I was living in my dad's apartment in Washington DC, right on 16th Street, and I recorded the motorcade, the presidential motorcade as it went by. That was like the first time I like set up for it. Then halfway through the motorcade, I stopped because I was hanging out the window above the motorcade with an unidentifiable object that I was pointing towards them. And I was like, no, I don't think anybody saw me, but I did at that moment. I was like, if somebody did, I'm not gonna. So I just kind of went back in. And so I recorded like the first half of the motorcade. And then I was like, no, I'm not gonna, I don't want somebody come knocking on my door.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, wow. That was, kind of dangerous.
Aiming a
awesome.
shotgun microphone at the motorcade.
Yeah. Nah, I didn't.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Could have been in
that's
the
always
news.
something that goes to my mind when I use the parabolic mic. When I go out, it's like, okay, I'm going to try to be as like... I mean, I have colorful hair. That helps, so I'm not a spy. I got this question once, and I was like, can I go as a spy? You can see me from miles away.
Yeah.
Something
But I
a
always
spy
try
would
to-
say for sure.
Yeah,
You
something
do
a
want
spy
to
would
be
say.
conspicuous. You don't want somebody to notice you and think you're trying to hide the fact that you're recording, because then it looks
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I'm not trying to be extra sneaky, but also like I'm trying to get like a bird sound or anything. So I'm
You are
I
trying
want
to be
to be a
sneaky.
bit sneaky, but it's always like while I'm doing this, I'm sneaking through the woods, and I'm thinking like, okay, I shouldn't be sneaking that much. People are gonna think I'm gonna listen to their conversations. And I think,
Yeah.
"Ah, fuck." So yeah, this kind of ambivalence is always it's always fun.
I will sometimes run into that issue because one of my hobby, I do like film photography. So if I'm out and about doing street photography, I don't want to be just like creepy guy with camera. .jpeg,
yes.
you know what I mean? So like I will make sure that I'm like, I'm not sneaking up on you to take a picture of you. All right, please remember that.
Yeah.
So it's similar when you're walking around with a microphone. Anything where people are like, "What are you doing?" So I get it.
Yeah, that parabolic brings up a funny story. I was trying to record a fire station siren not too far away, and I'm sitting there pointing it at, and the fire marshal came out, and he's like slowly walking towards me. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a conversation. He's like, what you doing there? What's going on over here? I'm like, I just want you to ring the siren. Like a little kid.
Like, okay,
Yeah. And
Give him the
then
bell.
he did. He turned it on.
nice.
Awesome. That's nice.
So, act like you got to be there and you belong there.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
True.
Absolutely, and always be friendly. That's always the
Yeah.
best thing to do.
Don't be standoffish if somebody asks what you're doing.
None of
None
your
of
During
your
my
business.
recording.
None of your business. Yeah, don't do that.
But how many of us have gotten that? Oh, what are you doing? What's going on? Oh, what are you up to? And it's like, I was recording.
Yeah, but now I'm not.
I will be
I was recording
recording
something.
3 minutes after you walk away slowly and the footsteps are gone.
I was
That's
recording like
part
waterfalls.
of the gig.
Yeah, some woman walked up behind me when I was recording it. It was like Great Falls Park when I was living in the DC area, and she walked right up behind me and asked what I was doing. And it's like, I'm not gonna be mean, you can't be, but at the same time, it's like we all know what microphones look like,
Yeah.
Not
But I mean,
ours.
sometimes they look weird, right?
That is true.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. So yeah, no, they do. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Italy and I was along the coast, and a woman came up greatly concerned because I was holding my D100. She thought it was a sea urchin because it had the double furry on it, right? So it's got the Rycode BBG on top of it. I was like, no, it's not an animal. I had to
It's
take
not
off
alive.
the lid. It's not an urchin.
my
She was
baby.
very relieved. Very relieved.
Was she there to be like, "Hey, don't touch the urchins," or was she
Yeah,
like, "Are you
I-
okay?"
I think
Did that
a
urchin
mix.
attack you?
Yeah. Like,
Okay,
look at
alright.
this stupid American handling an urchin
True,
like
I
it's a
didn't even think
toy,
about that, Yeah. Americans always reaching into the water and grabbing things that they think it belongs to them. No, it doesn't.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. A sea urchin. But it fits. It fits.
I'll send a photo. Yeah.
Oh yeah, please do. Damn. Maybe also on the topic of going out and recording. Do you have any advice for aspiring field recordists that are looking to get like high quality or higher quality sounds? Anything you can give as advice?
Oh, absolutely. Carry it everywhere. Always have it on you and record everything that is at all interesting all the time. That's the more you do this, the better you're going to get. the more you're going to pick out sounds that are cool. Then you'll just learn the rest along the way and gear up and figure out how to label them and have a better library. But just start record.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Like with most crafts, right? It's just getting the work in. And you spoke about like then getting the gear, and do you each maybe can share like a favorite piece of gear or even technique or like even tool that's maybe not a sound thing that you can't live without? And I'm gonna give like a quick example because I've gotten like so many tips over the years from people that were like way off. It was like, oh, I always have gardening gloves in my field recording kit, and I was like, why? And it's like, yeah, I want to like break some branches or something. I don't want to get cut again. It's like, oh yeah, this happened to me a lot. Now I have gardening gloves in my field recording kit. Can really recommend it. So, yeah.
Well, I definitely have a go-to microphone. It's the mid-side combo 5030 MKH Sennheisers. I just absolutely love it. Like a Desert Island's in MKH 8040, but there's something about the 5030 that doesn't have the ultrasonic noise. It's got that nice punchy low end. It's like already Hollywoodized, for lack of a better term. Just a little hyperreal, bigger than life, big transients, pitches down well, goes up to say 87 kilohertz. Every time I share recordings from that thing with people, everyone's like in love with the recordings from that particular rig. So that's my main go-to rig of all the recordings I do.
That's on my list. Yeah, and for you, Mac?
So yeah, I mean, my field recording kit is nothing crazy. I don't really have like anything that I'm, like stand out like, oh, you gotta get, I've had the Zoom H6 for a very long time. But my favorite tool for sound design in general, just, I always will come back to is just recording weird vocals. I can make a lot of gross, disgusting sounds with my mouth, and they translate into some pretty cool things. So I've just kind of, been comfortable with making gross stuff or weird sounds or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's kind of just been one of my things. So yeah, I guess you'd call that a tool that I carry around with me.
That's good that you don't leave it at home. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah,
otherwise.
it is interesting.
Do when people fry.
Yeah, so like my sound design friends will like find it interesting, and then normal people just find it disgusting. So it's a cool to be like, oh, you could do that? I'd be like, yeah. They're like, awesome. And then if I do anything like that in front of a friend who's not in this, they're like, that's gross. You should maybe go see a doctor.
It's a party trick to clear the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can find your peers easily. It's like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Can I brought this?
The look on my dad's face when I told him I was going to go up on a panel at PAX and like burp in front of people was one of probably like intrigue mixed with disappointment. So he wouldn't understand, Dad. Your son's got to make his way in this
cool
world.
Yeah, that's what the cool kids do.
Yeah, he wouldn't get
The world
it.
has changed. No, that's wonderful. And yeah, maybe Mac, can you also tell us a bit more about your company, Clean Waves? Clean Waves?
Clean Waves, yeah. I was
Clean Waves, of course.
Banking on anybody who comes to look for it. They see the waves and they go, it's probably waves because of audiophile, but like I get it. No, it's just an LLC that I started kind of to just put all of my my contract and work underneath one umbrella. I hadn't had an LLC for a long, long time. I do mostly game audio, but I also I edit audio for podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff like that. So I just like having one thing all under one umbrella. So it's I have it. Don't know if I'm going to do anything crazy with it, but I have it in case I do. So maybe somebody else hears that who's trying to figure out whether or not they want to do that. I just it's easy enough for me to make an LLC, so I just went and did it.
Yeah, that's something that I'm really kind of envious about America, because like here in Germany, the whole bureaucracy and thing is, it makes it a bit harder to make something that's not just, let's say it's just a hobby, because after a certain amount you gotta get like more or less like a full or half-blown company, and you have to spend like $3,000 every year just for it to exist. Mm-hmm. And it's LLCs is always something that we Europeans are a bit envious about.
Ooh, Texas LLCs are pretty simple. Yeah, we do have that easy.
Yeah. innovation. That's good for innovation.
Guns and LLCs. That's Texas.
Guns and LLCs. Come to Texas.
100. I mean, is there a better advertisement for Texas?
That's the pitch. Barbecue.
You just come start a business. Doesn't matter what the business is. You come here, start a business, get a gun, go outside, record it. Come to Texas.
Yeah. Just beware the metal pings.
Yeah, you
a
gotta
lot
watch
of
out for the metal pings. Yeah.
A lot of flagpoles.
Yeah. No, like having the LLC to it does, it makes it a little bit easier to, maybe present yourself to a larger company who wants to contract you. There's like real benefits to it. I'm currently working with, I'm contracting for Meta right now. And me having my LLC made it an easier sell to hire me. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's maybe also advice for starting, people starting out, that it's a good way, if it's easy in your country or in your area.
Yeah.
To have that kind of more, this is not one person, this is a company kind of look. That might help as well. Yeah, then, the only thing I have like on my list of questions really is like, what's next for you both? Like, do you have anything exciting coming up that you can talk about? Because I know the dreaded NDAs, or anything recently you want to talk about?
Well, currently, post Arkane Austin closure, I'm just exploring what's next. There's a lot of good opportunities, and luckily the game auditor community is really supportive. So there's been a lot of people reaching out, love the game dev community. So now it's just picking the right direction.
Open sea. Nice. And for you, Mac?
Yeah, just, like I said, just doing some contract work and trying to figure out where to take the firearm recording class next, which is kind of what we've just been referring to it as. That's what the group chat of the folks involved right now on Discord, that's what we call it. I'll probably make a Discord server at some point just to kind of, bring people in who are more interested. So that's going to be a pretty big focus of mine. So that's something.
That's a very cool thing, yeah.
We should definitely mention everybody else involved. We got Chris Carroll, James Barker, Andrew Corbett, Dietrich Dice, Ryan Stunkel, and myself and Mac.
Yes.
Awesome. Sounds already like a big group of people. That's very cool. Interesting. I'm gonna look out for that, and I will definitely. I have Texas on my list of things to visit. I have some things I'd like to see. So, whenever I'm planning on doing that, I'm gonna reach out, because I at least would love to just visit the range with you, and if it's possible.
Yeah, come on
maybe
out.
I'll bring some recorders. Of course, I'm gonna bring recorders.
Of course, yeah.
Of course.
And we have a monthly meetup, Boston Game Audio. So reach out. We can schedule it whenever, and it'd be great to have you meet everybody.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Have you ever been to Texas before?
No, not yet.
It's
so far Nevada and California.
Okay, so Texas is huge. It's like deceptively huge. It's massive.
Yeah.
So just plan accordingly when you're looking at a map.
Absolutely.
When I first moved here, I made the mistake.
Everything in America is huge.
Yeah.
It's like,
if
you say I'm going to visit family, it could be like a 12-hour trip. For us, a 12-hour trip is basically a vacation.
Yeah.
Like if I visit family and it's 3 hours away, it's like massively far away.
I wonder how many Germanys could fit in Texas. 5?
A couple. It's got to be a couple. I moved to Texas from the Northeast, and when I came here, I was just like, I think like Spotify had a concert pop up in my area, and it was like Rage Against the Machine is going to be in El Paso, and I was like, oh, dude, same state. I'll just drive over there. It's like 8-hour drive. I'm like, dude, from the center of the state out to the west. I'm like, never mind. I'm not going to do that because you get it.
Yeah, that's fun. But lots of open space, so that's always fun. Always good for recording.
Definitely that.
Okay. As I said, that's everything I have. So thank you both for being on the show. It was wonderful to talk to you about this, and I'm very much looking forward to see how this develops. And we'll keep tabs on this, and maybe we do like a revisit of this topic in a few years when you've built up this massive shooting range recording class.
Oh, that'd be cool.
You heard it here first.
See where it's at. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll check back.
Marlin Carbine -001. 1 second. Wait. 1 second.
You got the slate.
Really? Pause it. Let me go grab another box of ammo. Okay. I don't know if it's the gun or the ammo.
Looking for more audio-related podcasts to listen to? We're part of the Audio Podcast Alliance, featuring a hand-picked selection of the very best podcasts about sound. Be sure to hear the latest episodes from our friends in the community at audiopodcast.org. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting on patreon.com/fieldandfoley or ko-fi.com/fieldandfoley, where you gain early access to episodes in lossless format and can submit questions for our guests. Thank you for listening.